Howdy y'all, I wanted to do hopefully this will be a quick video of a journal that I'm making. I thought I'd show you how I do mine, so maybe it would inspire you to make one for yourself or to make one for someone that you love or not. If you want to make a gift for somebody. Here in the US, Mother's Day is coming up, so this makes a great Mother's Day gift. Super easy, super fast, and super inexpensive. So I chose not to use any scrapbook paper or materials that you would find in a craft store for scrapbooking or card making. A lot of us don't have that, you know, like tons of punches and pretty papers and all the fancy inks, and just there's so much and it's easy to get overwhelmed. So I like to keep it simple. I don't actually own a lot of supplies. My husband would probably roll his eyes at that comment. Or at least give me a questioning look, but comparatively I do not. I like to invest in art supplies, so I do have quite a bit of stuff like that, but still not very much. So what I used here was watercolor, but you could use acrylic, any kind of paints, crayons even. Crayons would be awesome. You know, any kind of markers. You could use any type of thing to make pretty pages. And I'm gonna, if you'd like, I can do a separate video of how I make these really loose flowers. They're super easy to make in watercolor, and I can show you how I do it if you're interested. I do want to say though about watercolor, or if you use any kind of water medium in your creating, so like if you make journals or books or anything like that, and you like to use anything that uses water, makes the paper quite wet. My favorite, or I should say one of my favorite papers, is this resume paper. Let me see if I can get this in frame. So it's 100% cotton resume paper. It's 32 pounds, so it's not super heavy. 120 grams per square meter. So I like this because it takes the water media really well, and it's not thick, and it doesn't bulk up your journal, you know. So here's a piece of it, just plain. So, you know, it bends easily. Even when with these washes that I did, like this one, you can see it's not super warped. Even if it was, it wouldn't bother me really, but see how it's pretty flat, and if I wanted it to be really flat, I could have made sure, you know, I could have like taped it down or whatever, but I didn't. I just painted it, let it dry. I didn't flatten it out or anything while it was drying, and see how flat it is, and it's not heavy. Now I'm using it as the cover. It's a pretty lightweight cover because I'm making my journal to go inside my little, oops, sorry, my little dory that I made this, and I started out with a traveler size journal a couple of years ago, and I really liked it, but I wanted something bigger, so I made a bigger one. So this is the, let's see what size, I use the, oh gosh, what are they called? Oh, Cahir. Is that how you say it? I'm going to totally butcher that name. I can show you later. And I'll put the size, the dimensions down below. So it doesn't really matter what size. You can make this journal any size you want with whatever materials you have available. But I'll put commonly sized journal pages below just to help you out if you haven't ever made one before. So mine is a Cahir size, which is 8 1/4 tall by 5 inches wide. So all my pages are 8 1/4 tall by 10 inches long, roughly. And I'm not exact because I don't care about perfection, so I don't care if some of my pages stick out or if they're shorter. In fact, I kind of like it all being varied. So since I'm making this for myself, obviously I picked up stuff that I like. So I like flowers, and I'm going to make that my theme. And since I'm thinking about Mother's Day, I'm making myself a Mother's Day journal. So I'm doing flowers and then mother type themes. So this came from an old 80s calendar that I picked up at the resale shop, and somebody had cut something out of it because it has beautiful images. See, beautiful images on all the pages. So I don't care. I don't care if there's a hole there. And if it bothered you, if you had something that had damage, you could always decoupage something on top of that. I'm not going to worry about it because it doesn't bother me, and I'm leaving it just like that. So just to give you an idea of papers that I use, like this paper's too, this ledger paper's too long, and I didn't want to cut it off, so I just chose to fold it in because I like to do that, fold stuff, and then I'll glue and paint and whatever on top of that. Here's another calendar page. This is just paper from, it's like office, really nice office paper that I found at the resale shop. It has a little bit of texture to it, just a plain sheet. A little notebook piece of paper. Another calendar page, really like that one. I think that's Renoir, is it? I don't know. Do y'all know who that is? And then tracing paper. Love tracing paper, y'all. You probably do too, right? If you make journals, you probably use it too. I love it because I love the way it sounds. And I just like how it's semi-translucent. It just gives me another option. This came from an old National Geographic magazine. I find these at my resale shops. This is from the 50s. I chose it because of the mother and baby here. This is for Bell telephone system. Isn't that cool? I wasn't alone anymore. You know, I'm filming this with my mobile phone. It's amazing how things have changed in such a short amount of time, right? Okay, and then this pager. Yeah, I had one of those too. Actually, my husband did. I never had a pager. Did y'all have a pager? Showing my age. So this paper is, I love this paper. Found it at the resale shop too. I'm always looking over, like go over to the office, you know, section. People donate stuff, you know, they buy, like this resume paper, they buy it, you know, when they're looking for a job and then to print out their resume, and then they don't need it anymore. And then a lot of times you'll find, you know, the box mostly is full for nothing, you know, $1 or whatever, less than that. This was that way too. I found it at resale shop, and this is airmail paper. I love this paper. It has I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but it has a fine texture and how it was there's watermarkings in there that's just really pretty, and it's a real pale pink, which is not picking up on here either, and it's really thin, which I like for journals too. And then this paper I haven't folded yet because I painted some more loose roses on, this is from the resale shop. It's just cardstock made for card making. And I just watercolored on it. It took the watercolor really well, much better than I thought it would. And I'm going to make a little tuck spot, and I want to sew it on. So I have some vintage threads here because I love anything textile related, so I tend to collect old stuff, including old thread. So I don't want to use it sewing clothes for my dolls or anything like that because I want it to be, I worry about stability, you know, on the older threads because they can get, what's the word? Delicate, I guess. You know, they say thread can become rotten. That's what my grandmother used to say. Nana used to say that, and I think it's true because it's just like any other, you know, old fabric, how it can become very delicate just with age. But this seems pretty strong, so I do use it. I haven't used it in clothes. I do use it in art, textile art, but just not in something that I worry about wear and tear. Anyway, I'm going to use this one, I think. So I'm going to hand sew that on. Sewing machine would be fun too, but this particular project I wanted it to be where even if you didn't have any type of crafting supplies per se, you could just pick up a couple of things or maybe raid your grandmother's stash or your mom's stash if they have stuff like this and you don't. I wanted it to be as simple as possible. If you don't have vintage thread like I do, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't have vintage thread. I know, it's weird, I know. Embroidery floss works really well, and or just regular sewing thread, you know, whatever. Or glue it on. You don't have to sew it on. I'm sewing it on because that's what I like to do, and I like textiles. So you can do it any way you want. So I'm going to do that in a minute, and I'm just going to stitch here and here. And this is just regular old, well, it's not regular. It's actually really pretty. but it's some more office type paper. Just, it was in the office supply section, but I got it used again. Well, not, I mean, the box was partially used at the resale shop. It's really pretty paper. Then I'm also going to use some textiles. I love anything to do with textiles. I love to spin, I love to knit, I love to sew. I love vintage textiles. So I have this piece of, that I cut off, a piece of vintage textile. I didn't even wash this particular one because I like the smell. I know this is really weird, but it has this aged smell, and since I'm not using it in a textile project, I decided not to wash it because, I don't know, I'm into the way things smell. Okay, I'm weird. I'm admitting that right here. I haven't decided how I'm going to attach this yet, but I'm thinking, I'm making a pocket here. I'm thinking I'm going to make it, I'm going to just glue it on, but I want to make a pocket on the front page, front inside cover. And then this piece of fabric I'm going to add because this piece of fabric came from a project. It's Japanese double gauze, and if you are a sewer, then you may know what I'm talking about, how yummy this fabric is. Oh my goodness. This double gauze, though, I took apart because a friend of mine who is a doll repair person, she repairs old vintage antique dolls. A lady brought a doll into her needing repair and had on a dress that was literally in shreds. I kid you not. I have a picture of it somewhere, but anyway, my friend asked me, she said, "Hey Phaedra, do you think you could, you know, stabilize it?" Because she really wants to keep the dress. The dress means a lot to her. And, you know, what can we do? What can we do with this dress? And so it was a miracle. I found this. It was like the perfect color. I mean, the original dress was obviously not this pale pink. It was very faded. I just happened upon this at a local fabric store. I was almost jumping up and down with joy when I found it. But what I had to do, it was very labor intensive, is I took it apart because the Japanese double gauze is actually woven together, 2 layers. They actually weave it and attach it at the same time, but it was too thick if I used it double, you know. I just needed something to stabilize. I mean, ideally I was wanting something like silk, but I didn't have the right kind for the project. So anyway, so I took it apart and used this side, how thin it is, to basically line that vintage dress so the lady could keep it on her doll. And I don't know, I think it's awesome that people, well, I love dolls, but also I love the fact that the history of the doll, and I wanted to, and it was an honor to be a part of that. And so when I look at this fabric, that's what I think of. It makes me happy to know that that doll is still loved, and now the dress will not continue to completely rip apart. So I'm going to put this in here like a page. I don't know where yet, but I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to use it because I love to embroider and sew. And since this is my journal, and when I get just, you know, an itch to do something, and I don't have all my sewing supplies out, my plan is, with this one is, I'm going to put a needle and some embroidery floss right here. So when I get a little, you know, whatever, to just, you know, to do it, I'll have a little place I can do little pieces of embroidery, but that's me. So for your journal, or the journal that you're going to make for somebody, you know, think of things that they love, think of things that you really love, and try to gather up those kind of materials that you love and that you want to look at every day. It's another way to get you to use your journal all the time. I also love tea, so I gathered up these. I don't know if I'm going to use them in here yet or not, but I love to use these as pockets in here. You know, another thing you can do for art is you can take, you know, junk. I don't have anything right now. This is the closest thing I have to actual, like, junk. But, you know, your junk mail that you get, if you use acrylic paints, you can paint right over that junk mail. Really cool way to use that up. I also cut these out of a book. It was a book about women and flowers. And I just like these images. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to use them all in this one, but I went ahead and, you know, got them out in case I want to. I really love these images. So beautiful. I don't know if I'm going to put them in. Again, it's from a book that I had. These are from calendars, so again, just like this, if you can find old calendars, or just go even to Dollar General or the dollar store or whatever, a lot of times they have pretty calendars you can pick up for nothing. A doily I had just lying around, some more flowers. Those are blue bonnets, Texas State Flower. I love these, love these. This is a card from Christmas somebody gave me, and I don't know if I'm going to use not the card, the envelope. I don't know if I'm going to use it in here or not, but a lot of times I like to use envelopes. And then ephemera. So I have this piece that I found. I paid $1.25 for these little pieces that are in here. This one is the one I'm kind of thinking about using. This is from an old box of candy. Love that. So I don't know if I'm going to put that in there or not, but it is flowers, which is my kind of my theme here, and I may use that. I may not. I don't know. Another page from National Geographic. I just love the colors and the family, and just, I don't know, I just loved it. So if I use it in here, I'll probably just fold it in half and add it as another page. I'm not sure. And then this is wrapping paper I got from the resale shop too. It's kind of tattered looking, but it's pink and flowery. See the messy watercolor style? Love that. That would be so easy to do, y'all, if you wanted to do something similar to that. That'd be so easy. And I think I might make an envelope out of this. It's a lightweight wrapping paper, which again I like to go in journals lightweight. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So this is the stuff I've gathered up. So look around and see what you've got that you can gather up, and things you want to use, things you like, or things that your recipient really likes. So gather up all the pages. I'm going to put probably, I don't know, 10, 12 pages in here maybe, which will make, 20, 24 pages in the journal itself. You'll also need something to bind it when we're done. There's a couple different ways we can do it. I'm going to use crochet thread to bind my journal together. You could use a stapler, staple it together. You could use a sewing machine. You could even glue it. So those are some things to think about as you're gathering all your supplies. So now I'm just going to work on it, and I'll probably just speed it up so this video doesn't last forever.